I think as architects, it's important that we're kind of like the caretakers of the human environment. We have so many people advocating for our natural environment, but architects, we have to look at how the whole thing works together. Not just individual buildings, not just the green spaces or open spaces, but we have to push for looking at it as a system where everything is kind of like benefiting, or there's a mutualism, between the different parts of a city. And so I think that's how we can create more sustainable cities. We're faced with such big problems now that we can't just do small solutions, but we have to look at kind of like an overall thing for us to be able to really change things. Yeah. Well, I think there's kind of like two trends that we've been like observing. One is of course the idea about localization, that trying to get not just in terms of materials, but in terms of like how you can access so many more things, within a certain like a 15-minute city and stuff like that, right? But I think what's also interesting is that there's a diversity of solutions. It's no longer like one size fits all, right? So there's so many ways for us to kind of like create more sustainable cities, from the smallest interventions to actually working with stakeholders and the communities. And all of these things help. Like I said, you cannot have one size to fit everything, nor can you always have a big solution. Sometimes it's an amalgamation or like a collection of small ideas that actually produce a big change. And so I think it's important to keep nudging and keep pushing. And I think the trend is towards that everyone accepts it now, and it's no longer something that we are thinking about, but something that we're actually doing something about. And I think that's a big change for everyone. Well, I think, human beings are not meant to be cooped up indoors. And so I think we need to have access to the outdoors. I think the pandemic has shown us that we can't live in a very limited space. We all realize that now, and everyone's trying to get out. The increasing number of terraces, for example, more open living areas, I would say. And of course, people, kind of like the centralization, something like that, like moving outside the city. So I think there's like a lot of like these small things that are coming together now, and that's kind of like something that is good actually in certain ways. Well, one of the good things always about WAF is that at least once a year, everyone gets to come together from all over the world, hear out each other's ideas and what we've all been, working on. And this influences your thinking about, okay, there's sort of like a zeitgeist that everyone's kind of like moving towards, right? And so I think it's important to be in touch with this as an architect, that you know what the global discourse is on architecture, and that there is a certain standard we're all trying to adhere to, globally. So I think that's something that WAF represents in many ways. Well, of course, there are so many learnings that we get from each other. Architecture, especially more than most professions, I think, we learn from our peers. I mean, that starts from university all the way to, practice, and no matter where you are, at which stage of your career you are, you actually learn more from your peers than from books or any other documents, right? In many ways, it's very experiential as a practice. And so I think that's really what you learn from everyone, their experiences, the stories that we tell. And, architects love narratives, we love context. And so we all have, each of us have different contexts and narratives to share. And, that kind of like creates a global narrative for everyone, right? Well, WAF is very important because it's a platform for us to showcase the best practices that we have globally. It's important because we get to see and share with each other things. So it's very important as a platform and as a hub for connectivity to bring everyone together.